Welcome to Modern Day Economics, where we discuss economic issues and events that affect our families and communities. Today, we're going to talk about another global economic event, which is the UK Manufacturing Index. It's very interesting to analyze manufacturing specifically because manufacturing, historically speaking, tends to be the sector of the economy that is really the last one to go down during a recession and the first one to come back up. So, very interesting to analyze. If you think of service providers, most service providers provide services for manufacturing firms. But manufacturing firms are those that really produce the goods that keep the economy moving. Um, so very interesting to analyze them when you consider the total economy overall. So looking at the numbers for July, um, the forecast was 52.2 and we came in at 52.1, so slightly below the forecast, below the previous read of 52.8. So really the way we look at manufacturing index, again, um, for those of you that are new, for those of you that have listened to the podcast in the past, you may already know this, but any read above 50 is technically considered an expansion. Any read below 50 is considered technically a contraction. And some of you may think, well, 52 is above 50, so that's a positive. Well, not so fast, because output in manufacturing is down. And it's actually down for the first time since May of 2020, when we had that huge downturn with the pandemic. So, not necessarily good news at all. Certainly something to be very alert of and to pay very close attention to, that output is down in manufacturing in the UK. We recently talked in the prior episode about manufacturing and the manufacturing index being down in Germany, which is another big manufacturing powerhouse in the European Union. So, what's really driving this? Well, some similar situations to Germany with its differences. Of course, similar situations would include, of course, the increase in costs of raw materials. So, in the United Kingdom specifically, costs have been up for 75 consecutive months. So for a very long time, costs have gone up, and a good portion of this is passed on to the end consumer, which that's what results in the inflationary pressures that most individuals see. We see them here in the United States. I mean, even when you go to the grocery store or engage in the purchase of goods and services, everyone's seeing it. It's impossible to deny. It's out there. It's there. And in the UK, they are seeing it as well. So the increase in costs, some post-Brexit issues as well. Um, they don't necessarily see as much of the pressures in the natural gas shortage that, of course, is the big fear over in Germany. But there is, of course, the increase in inflation, which is a big concern, and the cost of living is also a very big concern as well. And when we think of the economy in general, really what the economy is based on is psychology and confidence. There's a lot of people out there think it's all very mathematic and methodical. Well, I mean, yes, there's a component of that to it. But at the end of the day, it's the psychology of the consumer. Is the consumer confident in the economy, or is the consumer not confident in the economy? That's really what's going to drive purchasing decisions. And at this point in time, there's many voices in the industry that indicate that the consumer may just not be as confident, that with the rise of costs of goods, the rise of costs of living, and of raw materials for many manufacturing firms, the confidence may be a little bit lower. When we look at individuals and families, traditionally speaking, at least, salaries don't necessarily go up as rapidly as inflation, especially in times of higher inflation. So that creates a drastic compression in people's purchasing power, and that can be a very big factor in determining if confidence in the economy goes down. Some out there say that recession can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, I don't know if it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or not. What I do know is that at least here in the United States, we've had two consecutive quarters of negative GDP, and that is traditionally what we do consider a recession. There's some voices out there of individuals and entities that indicate that we may not be in a recession or that there should be a different definition of recession. I did an episode on this, of course. But traditionally speaking, it is two consecutive quarters of negative GDP that has officially occurred in the United States, which would indicate we are in a recession. So certainly something to keep in mind here in the United States as we look at other global economies and manufacturing in other parts of the world, and we see this negative news. Also, something to keep into account. Thank you for listening today to Modern Day Economics. Hope you enjoyed this episode on the UK manufacturing industry. Stay tuned for more economic news and events.